Okay, here is, we're going to make a video on how to assemble and put together the Excalibur. I apologize for the background noise. I'm going to do the best I can. Hopefully the audio turns out fine. I've got some fans running in the background, which I have no control over. At any rate, your box will come like this. The first thing we're going to do is cut the straps. And we're going to open the box. We have the box open, and I thought it would be wise to take a little video of this. And the reason for this is, for any reason, if you had to repack one, say we send you another one for warranty purposes, you can have an idea of what it looked like when you opened it up. We've got the basket here, the seat is here. Of course, the folded over unit is right there, laying at an angle, and all of your little accessories to go with the bike. We've got the accessories out. Here is what the unit looks like. Of course, I pulled this separator out, which was between this part and the deck. We're going to lift this. It's a two-person job, folks. Don't injure yourself. We're going to lift this whole thing out as a contiguous unit. Now, be mindful that this is connected. Unlike the Raptor and the Condor, it is hardwired. So you don't want to try to yank up on half of this to pull it out, because it is connected to the back half like that. So we are going to lift it all as one unit. We've unpacked all of our accessories and of course took the bubble wrap off. That takes almost as long as actually putting the unit together. But we're going to have two people lift this out all as one unit. It's very manageable, but again, take your time. Work smart, not hard. Okay, we've got the main body unwrapped. Now, I want to point a couple of things out. This here is the pin, which screws into this nut on this side here. You remove that. That is what is removed when you want to fold the bike over. So we just go ahead and get that out of the way for now. Now, the secondary, the pivot bolts, which are right here, as well as the retaining bolt, which you'll see where I put that. It's a spacer to keep it from moving forward and back. They are all in your toolkit. So off we go. What we're going to do is carefully place this inside of here, of course. We're going to put in this bolt, and then of course we will put in the T-bolt once everything is aligned and the wires are clear. We'll show you how to carefully pull some of this slack out, which is here from the factory, once we put the put the fuse in. We went ahead and put this unit into here, and of course what you want to do, you want to either shim this up. Better with two people, you'll have to lift up this to get the hole to align on your first bolt, which is your pivot bolt. Now, and then of course we put in the T-bolt, which you remove. Again, if you do want to remove this for breaking down purposes, you want to take a little weight off of it. I'm lifting it with my foot just to take pressure off of that, so the weight of the scooter isn't sitting on that bolt as you're trying to turn it. We went ahead and loosely put on these. We're going to tighten this up, but not super snug, because again, this is a pivot section, but we don't want it to rattle around or rattle off. Here is where the spacer bolt goes. We put that there for now, just finger tight until we're all done and tighten these up. This keeps the bike from wanting to move on you back and forward as it pivots on these two bolts. It's what a lot of cheaper bikes don't have, as you'll notice that. At any rate, we do have some excess wire underneath. Let me see, could have come from the other side. We're going to show you how to feed that back, but as you're putting this in, make sure that you carefully feed this wire down so it doesn't get what I call bitten by the metal. Terrible video, I know, folks. I'm doing this with one hand. Anyway, you just want to guide this in nice and smooth. It's pretty easy, actually. I'm taking longer to explain it than it actually takes to do it, but I just wanted you all very comfortable with this process. Now, when we put the fuse in, which I believe we're going to do next, all you're going to do is to take these two, this one and this hex head, which you have a tool in your toolkit for, out. This entire deck will cam up, kind of like the old Corvettes where the hood folded forward. For all of those in our age group, showing our age, that remember that. Do not, as I did, full disclosure, do not have to remove these screws in the back because they are actually on a hinge. If you do that, you're just going to have to put the hinge back on. So the only bolts necessary are these two to remove to get to the fuse, and of course to take the play out of the wire, which we'll do next as well, and this whole deck will rise up and you'll see. Alrighty, we've removed the two hex heads. Go ahead, Anita, my trusty assistant, she'll show you how this whole unit lifts up. There you go. Just like the old Corvettes. And there we have our battery pack, our fuse holder, and this is the point at which we'll carefully take out the slack in the battery box of the large cable that's in front, which is actually this cable here. We're going to feed that nice and neatly, pushing and pulling without messing anything up to take out the applicable slack. I'm actually doing it now as we speak. Okay, Anita's going to go ahead and feed it forward. Okay, we're going to take out the slack. What we did, we carefully lifted this out. Again, just be careful and move things and remember how they were. And she's going to push and pull the cable at the same time, so we're not stressing anything or hurting any connectors. Now, you don't want to make it super tight. Remember, this unit needs to cam back, so you want to leave what I call a service loop, just a little bit of slack, so that it has plenty of room without pulling on the wire to fold forward and back, you know. But you see how much we actually pulled up. We pulled basically about this much forward right here. Now the fuse is going to go right in here. You're going to hear a pop. It'll scare you. There you go. We like a little bit of excitement here at 5-Star Scooters. What that is, folks, that's a capacitor discharging, in case you're wondering. Nothing shorting out, and no, your fuse will not blow. It will just add a little excitement to your life is all. Now we're going to put everything back neatly. Nice and careful. Slow and steady wins the race. We've got the wire, the slack taken out, the fuse is in, everything is put back in its little place nice and neatly. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put the deck back on, as so. And Anita will be putting in the two screws to hold the deck down. Simple pimple. Okay, we're going to be putting on the folding throat. Now, let me point something out. Sometimes people will find this, it comes off in shipping. You see this laying in a box, you're like, where in the heck does that go? It's just a little gasket, a little bushing. It's somewhat, it has a flange here. So if you do see that, you want to make sure this is back on here. Let's go ahead and put that there. And we will go ahead and, there we go, start with putting together the throat unit. Okay, here is our bending throat mechanism, which we're going to install next. Let's show you how to open that. First of all, everything is double redundancy. If this were to come open while you're driving, the bike will not fold on you. Always two actions on my bikes. Go ahead and push that in, and that folds. Always good practice to put the actual handlebar into the pipe while it's in the folded position. Now, on the Excalibur, we have plenty of slack where you could actually put it in with it in the straight up position, but I want to be consistent. On the Raptor and Condor, there's not as much slack, so we always advocate that you go ahead and put the handlebar in the throat system with it folded. It just makes it easier to go ahead and put this part in the pipe. There you go. And now we're going to put that in there. And we'll be doing the front end alignment next. There we go. Look how easy that was. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, now that the handlebar and the folding throat, what I call the throat section, is now in place, as you see, it moves freely. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the folding mechanism. And this little hex head here, we're going to show you a trick. This is much like on a bicycle, what gives you what I call the front end alignment. Once you have it in position, the handlebar in orientation with the fork, you want to go ahead and tighten that down. Now, initially, what we did, we just made it a little bit snug. Not all the way tight yet. And the reason for that is, as we're folding and unfolding the bike, we don't want it to move easily once we do our front end alignment. Now, the front end alignment, here's what I do, folks. It's my little trick. My process, if you will. Let's move the head unit out the way. I kind of stand over the bike this way and align the handlebar with the forks, such as, I apologize for the poor angle, but it is what it is. Okay, that looks about good. Now what Anita will do, she will carefully open it again and go ahead and tighten that down nice and snug. Don't be afraid to put a little bit of heat on this, meaning we don't like to over torque things. However, this one you can put a little bit of pressure on because it's going to hold your steering wheel in place. Now, if any of you ever, your front tire gets cattywampus with the handlebar, now you know where and how to adjust that to give it its front end alignment again. Anita made that nice and snug. Now we're going to go ahead and close it back up, and we're going to move on. Now that we have our front end alignment done and the bike is about 3/4 of the way put together, or halfway at least, we're going to make sure, see, this is the little bushing. This is high density polyethylene. It's a very good material, but it is somewhat pliable. So what we want to make sure is we don't want that to move within the pipe. There is a little set screw here, okay? We're going to make sure before we do that this is nice and snug, okay? So Anita will be, my trusty assistant, will be tightening that so that it gets a good bite into this material. You know, you don't have to go crazy, but make sure it's got a good bite, and you can kind of check the handle to see if it's wanting to not move. That looks like it's pretty good right there, Anita. Okay, good job. Now, you also want to make sure that this is good and snug. What this does is not only allows you to raise and lower the handlebar, but this also helps close this collar and also supports this set screw. So you want this to be good and snug, and actually that is feeling, I could even put just a little bit more on there. I just did. We're almost done. Easy peasy. Now, Anita will go ahead and put the basket on. Keep in mind, this part here goes towards the back, okay? It's okay to carefully bend this forward so that it will match up with the clamps which go here, and you'll see that in just a moment. Getting a little bit of glare, but these are the basket clamps which help you put the basket on. Cleverly named the basket clamps. Oh, too early. That's a tongue twister. They are in your full kit as well. Here's a little trick that I've learned over putting about 1,000 bikes together. We go ahead and feed the screw through its washer, okay? And we're going to screw it into here once it's through the hole. Why do we do that? Well, because when you set the basket on here, instead of you fumbling with both of those and the basket's falling off, you can at least have one in place loosely and one less to worry about. So Anita's going to go ahead, we use the front 2 holes. In other words, the 2 farthest slots away from what I said is the back of the basket. And she's going ahead and threading that on there like so. Now, she prepares her other screws. And she is going to go ahead and walk that under, making sure that the clamp is in that groove, like so. And then she's going to work from the top and go ahead and secure the other ones. We're going to go ahead and tighten that down nice and snug. You don't have to over tighten it because remember, it's screwing into the aluminum bracket and you will strip it out. There's no need to go crazy on that. Just make it nice and snug. Next, we're going to put these on. Alrighty, we're ready to put the back bolts on. If you notice, these have little bars, and what I like to do, you either make sure that this is above one of these bars or below. I like above, and here's what I mean. So that sits flush on there as you go ahead and feed your bracket screws on. Now Anita is feeding the bracket screw with the backing plate, the screws through the plate, and then of course putting a nut on the back side. You can go ahead and snug these down good. If you get to the point where this is bending, then you know it's nice and snug. She's going to do the same thing on the other one. Okay, next we're going to put in the seat base. I want to point something out. This seat base has these little alignment pins, and where they will go is they will fit in these slots here. It simply slides in. It's pretty easy, like so. And you push it down a little bit. Now the seat base won't spin. Next, we're going to put the base and the high back onto our seat, and here's how this works. We're going to go ahead and quickly remove all of these. Of course, you can do this by hand, but since we do a lot of bikes, we cheat. Now, the proper process is as follows. We go ahead and first put the seat base onto the seat, like so, okay? I like to have these facing forward, although I think it doesn't much matter. Next, we're going to go ahead and slide the seat back bracket so that the screws will go through both and kind of sandwich this in. We'll go ahead and drop that. Anita's way ahead of me here, so we'll let her do it. And we're simply going to go ahead and tighten those down. Alrighty, we went ahead and tightened those down. The seat and the bracket is on. If you notice, we didn't put the high back cushion on yet because I have a little trick for that. Let's go ahead and put that into the seat post. It's just easier to work this way, folks. Little tricks that I've learned over time. First, we open up the tension bracket. We go ahead and slide the seat down. We go ahead and now we can tighten this tension bracket like so. This is how you adjust your seat up and down and also the orientation to the front. Now, it's easier to put the back on. What Anita is doing is, of course, removing the screws. Now she is going to simply align them. I know this seems silly, folks, but you know, we have to remember, not everyone has the same aptitude or experience with tools and putting things together, so I just want to be thorough. As I said before, no grumpy gusses. Not everyone knows everything that you know, so we're going to do this a simple way for everyone. And of course, she's going to tighten those down. And there you have it. There's an assembled bike. Now, all we're going to do now is put the proper pressure in the tires. We put 40 pounds in the front and 50 in the back. I'm going to show you a little trick that may or may not be necessary depending on how your bike arrived in its box. Depending on how it comes in the box. And here's what I mean. This is a tubeless tire. Now, full disclosure, I think we may go with a tube tire only because this process will be easier for customers. But I'm going to show you how. If this seal was broken, which in this case it is not, there is some pressure in there. If this seal was broken, you're going to have a difficult time. If you put air in here, it will simply leak out around the edges. And you're like, why won't this tire take pressure? It's much like a car tire. This bead has to be met with the tire. And I'll show you how to do that if that bead is broken from home. But this one isn't, so we're going to go ahead and put the appropriate 50 pounds of pressure in the back. That's a handy little deal there. Alrighty, now this was not compromised. In other words, it had enough pressure to where it held pressure from manufacturing, and this seam was indeed in place. So it was easy for us to put air in there. But I'm going to pretend that this tire was completely deflated, in which case it is not sealed against the tubeless tire rim. So what I did was I went ahead and got a strap, and I turned the bike on its side carefully just to make it easy to work on, okay? And then what I'm going to do in that case is go ahead and tighten this strap around this tire. What this is doing, folks, now take your time, it will fall off 3 or 4 times, don't get frustrated. Put it center on the tire all the way around, and as you tighten this, what it will do is squeeze the tire from the center, expanding the edges of the tire towards the edges of the rim, both front and back. You will be able then to put air in the tire. Again, take your time. What I used was a simple come-along strap here, like you use to hold things down in your pickup truck. But I can tell you, I've literally used my dog chain, the dog rope with the little loop on it. I put the dog rope around it, I put the clip for the dog through the loop, and I pulled it tight. It doesn't take a lot to squeeze that tire and to hold it to the rim. Again, by squeezing the center, you're expanding the tire on the outsides, and that's what we're after. Once you get a little bit of air in there and it seals, you can take this off and go ahead and continue to put air in it. Let me show you a good view of what I did here. I think that makes sense to everyone. And there you have it, a fully assembled Excalibur. It didn't take long. Nothing I did was hard or not duplicatable. I'm gonna finish off this video with going over the bike. Now, I already mentioned this is how you open your cell phone holder. You push that button right there. This is where your USB charging port is. Now, there's a switch on this side to turn that on and off. If you notice, I just turned it on. You have a little blue light in here indicating there's power to the charging. So if your phone's not charging, make sure that this switch right here is in the on position, which is up. The next thing, there are 3 power levels on our bike. 1, 2, and 3. Now, gang, this is not gears. This is electric. It's not a gas combustion engine. 1 is not low gear for hills. 1 is actually using less battery power. So if you're in a crowd or inside a building, if you want to put it on 1 so that the throttle will only go from 0 to about 5 miles an hour, so you've got all this range with limited power, so you can really make this thing creep and crawl, then you can do so. It's a governor, so to speak. If you require more power, you want more speed available or to do hills, you can kick it into 2 or to 3. You can shift on the fly. Now, full disclosure, because I am used to the throttle, we put this here for our novice riders. That's a governor. I leave mine in 3 because my wrist is trained. I can make this bike crawl even in 3 because this is not a junk throttle and junk parts like other scooters. They're very, very accurate. Next, we're going to go over how to fold up the bike, okay? Of course, your highway pegs, they fold in and out, okay? Go ahead. We're going to go through this. We're going to first open up our double redundancy clamp, as I mentioned. We're going to move that and move that out to the side. Next, we're going to go ahead and push that button, and the handlebar neatly and easily folds over. Now, the seat simply pulls out from the base, like so, okay? Now, you can either fold this handle over or not, depending on how much room you have. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to go ahead and just put this up for now so you can see how we go ahead and fold this over. Now, the first thing we're going to do is to loosen this nut a little bit, okay, just to take tension. See, this is applying tension to these screws. Next, what we're going to do is unscrew this T-nut. Now, if you notice, Anita is struggling just a bit. Part of the reason is her knee is on the base, and the base, the weight of the base is pushing down on that. So what you want to do, if you can, either have someone help you or simply lift up, take a little pressure off of that, and you see how much easier it got? There we go. See, I'm just lifting up, taking the weight off of that screw so that the threads move more easily. Now we have a little wheel that supports it. As you see, the bike is ready to fold. We're going to go ahead and simply fold the bike back onto itself. You may want to, folks, put a little something on here just so that the basket in transportation doesn't scratch your fender. But there you have it. There is a folded. Dear, go ahead and fold over that that handlebar as well. Alrighty, and she's going to have to lift that up. And there you go. Carefully place that so that it doesn't get messed up. There you go. And that is basically how it folds. Of course, you can play with this and decide how you want to lay it down. Alrighty. There you have it. A little hint, if you turn the tire to the right, as you saw initially, she struggled a little bit with it folding all the way down. If you turn the tire to the right, the basket to the right side, again, put a little something there not to scratch up your pretty fender, then the handlebar will sit nicely on top, and there you have it. One of these will easily go in the back of any hatchback vehicle. To fold the bike up, we simply do the process in reverse. She put the handle in place and she will lift, put its T-nut in, and while lifting, I'm helping her with my foot here, go ahead and screw that in secure. Folks, if you look at the construction of our bikes, there's a lot of cheap copies of both our Raptor and now the Excalibur. If you just pay attention to the welds in the construction, these bikes are amazing. They really are. We're quite proud of them. They're very, very well made. And quite frankly, the cheap copies, they're trying to charge the same thing as what we must charge to make this bike and deliver it to you. This here is the rear brake. When you push down with this with your foot, the brakes in the rear engage. You'll see them underneath. Go ahead and roll this over, dear. You want to put the seat in? Go ahead. We'll go ahead and show you that. Roll the bike over. I just want to go ahead and show it to you. There we go. Let me help her out a little bit there. As you see, this is not only a rear-wheel drive bike, but you have 3 disc brakes. You have your rear brake, which is controlled by that foot pedal for safety, like coming down a hill, in addition to the front brake, which all of our bikes have. Right here, while I'm here, is the charging port. You simply take your charger, which looks like this. You plug that in, it only goes in one way, nice spring-loaded pouch right there, like so. And of course the dumb end goes in the wall. These bikes being sealed lead acid, we discussed that to keep the cost low. These bikes will take from dead about 8 hours to charge. Now with sealed lead acid, it is beneficial or preferred to, at least most of the time, run the battery down some and fully recharge it instead of just always topping it off. Unlike our lithium-ion bikes, which you don't have to worry about that, this being sealed lead acid, it has 4 batteries in here. Much like a car battery, when I say sealed lead acid, it's that technology. You want to go ahead and run them down a bit before you recharge them. It's always good practice. This is your instruction booklet.